Welcome to episode 8 of One Way Sports. Today is Friday, September 20th. I am PWay, and coming up on today's podcast, I'm recording this right after the Thursday night football game between the Jets and the Patriots, so I have a full reaction to that coming up. And then it is Friday, no UFC fight this Friday, so what we're going to do is no big UFC card this weekend, so what we're going to do is we're going to preview every single game for this upcoming Sunday of the NFL slate. Full breakdown of every single game, details, and I give you a preview and then a prediction at the end of it as well. And then we'll wrap things up on this Friday and send you on your way to your weekend with a PWay's Parlay on the way out the door. So that's what you can look forward to coming up on today's podcast. But let's go ahead and jump right into the Thursday Night Football reaction. Jets take care of business and beat the Patriots 24-3 for their first home win against New England since December 27th, 2015. And boy, was Aaron Rodgers last night, huh? That looked like the four-time MVP if I've ever seen him play football before. I didn't expect him to have that kind of mobility in week 3. I didn't. Sure didn't. He was looking... he was scrambling out there, moving really well. That looked like vintage Rodgers. Was going on the run, throwing balls at different arm angles, was really scooting and moving in the pocket, avoiding pressure. Just what a game for Aaron Rodgers last night. And if you're a Jets fan, you've quite literally been waiting maybe your whole life for that game, but for sure you've been waiting at least 2 years to see Aaron Rodgers play like that because if you watch that game, you've never seen a Jets team play like that. Not in my lifetime. I'm 26. I've never seen a Jets team play like that. They held the ball for 10 plus minutes time of possession in all three of the first 3 quarters. And the first half was just complete domination. This game was over by halftime. Because in the first half, not only did the Jets just completely dominate, Rodgers hit 7 different wide receivers. The Jets have 20 minutes time of possession. 252-40 in total yards, 17-4 in first downs, 39-18 in total plays. I mean, it was just a thorough domination by the Jets. The O-line and the D-line last night looked incredible. The O-line was moving bodies in the run game. They were pushing people back, giving Braylon Allen and Breece Hall holes. And every time Rodgers needed to throw the ball, pretty much he had the time he needed to throw and deliver on time and on target. That looked like the Jets team that everyone picked could be, a Super Bowl contender this year. That was a complete full 60-minute domination of the New England Patriots. The Patriots kind of were a little bit of the darling the first 2 weeks because nobody thought they would be good, and they're 1-1, and they're feisty, and they're frisky, and they play hard. The Jets said, we don't give a about any of that. Rodgers was like, here you go. Right down your throat. I'm going to go march down the field and just continue to just be surgical. The Jets punted on the first possession. Then they go 8 plays, 73 yards in 4 minutes. Patriots punt, and then it's a 13-play, 91-yard drive that takes nearly 8 minutes. And then they had another one to end the half. That was 12 plays, almost 4 minutes. They just missed the field goal. But it was 14-3 at halftime. And when the Patriots didn't score right at a half and the Jets go down and get another touchdown on an 11-play drive, this thing was a wrap because the Patriots don't have the explosiveness on offense to be able to compete with a game like this. And the Jets defense was never going to blow an 18-point lead to that offense. Rodgers was the best player on the field last night, and I don't think it was even close. He finished 27 of 35, 281 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was weird because the throws that he missed last night were most of the throws to Garrett Wilson. It still seems like they're working on their connection fully. Garrett Wilson had 9 targets and he had 5 catches. So 4 of the 8 incompletions go to Garrett Wilson's way. But I like how much Rodgers is throwing him the ball. You can tell Rodgers has played with Allen Lazard for a very long time, and he played with Devontae for a very long time because the throws that he makes, I don't know if Rodgers just missed a couple last night or if just that last half second that he needs Garrett Wilson to break, he just breaks a half second later and they end up not connecting. But they were good last night. Garrett Wilson made a ton of good plays for them and a couple first downs. How about Tyler Conklin, their tight end, 5 catches for 93 yards. He was really good last night. And then Allen Lazard and Rodgers just continue to show that their connection is just special. And that's why Lazard was brought here last year. And I think Tyler Conklin had 6 catches all of last season. He had 5 last night. And Lazard looked like a complete and total dud in this offense last year with Zach Wilson. Like, that's just the difference when you have a Hall of Fame quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. The defense was incredible last night as well. I mean, they held the Patriots to 139 total yards, 11 first downs on 48 plays. They dominated the game. The Patriots did nothing. It never really even – I know they scored 3, but it never felt like they were even going to get close to scoring a touchdown. The Jets defense, that looked like the Robert Saleh defense in San Francisco. I'm not saying it was as good, but in terms of scheme, hitting, speed, execution, their defense was very good last night. And that was one of my big takeaways is the Jets offensive line and defensive line can play like this. Man, they're going to be tough to beat in that division and in the AFC. Now, hopefully Morgan Moses, who went down with that knee injury late in the game, will be okay for the Jets because their O-line played phenomenal last night. It looks like it's starting to finally gel for everybody on offense, and 133 rushing yards on 33 attempts. So, I mean, they were able to run the ball. Rodgers had time to throw. He was only sacked twice. Just a super clean, efficient football game from the Jets. And now they go into that mini bye of having Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, and they'll be rejuvenated, going into next week. Let's see who they got. They have Buffalo, or excuse me. They have the Broncos, Vikings, and then Bills to close out this home stretch. So they could easily win 4 in a row going into that Bills game. We'll see what happens, but I like a lot what I saw from that Jets team last night, specifically though Aaron Rodgers. He was just incredible last night. That looked. I just kept watching the game, going, "Wow, I can't believe he's moving like this. I can't believe he's moving like this." He didn't. And you could tell in the first couple weeks he didn't want to force it unless he had to. Last night he was on prime time, and he's like, "Nah, I'm gonna show everybody that I'm still this guy." At 40 years old, he was slinging the rock around last night, just dotting people up. I loved what I saw from Rodgers, man. Like that, if he plays like that, this Jets team can beat anybody, especially if their defense is going to play like that. I mentioned they scored on back-to-back drives in the first half. They did that twice last season, and they've already done it twice this year. I mean, that's the difference when you have a competent quarterback. And I thought Kirk Herbstreit made a great point last night that everyone wanted Nathaniel Hackett fired. He can't run an offense, blah, blah, blah. It's a whole lot different when Rodgers is running that thing. Obviously, players make coaches look better, but if you're a coach and your offense is built for Aaron Rodgers and you get Zach Wilson, it's going to look exactly how it looked last year. Now, the Jets were aided a little bit by the Patriots' tackling woes. 13 missed tackles for 100 extra yards last night on the Patriots side. That doesn't feel like something would happen to a defensive minded head coach in that team, but maybe it's just a lack of preparation this week on a short week. There's no time to get those tackles in. I don't know, but the Patriots looked like what we thought they would be at the beginning of the season. That's for sure. Last night, their offense is so bad. They brought Drake May in at the end of the game. They don't need to play Drake May this season, really. I really don't believe that. They don't have no real weapons. The offensive line's pretty bad, and we just saw what happened to Bryce Young being put in there too early. Let's hope they don't do the same thing to Drake May, but that was thorough domination by the Jets last night, and they look like a team that could really be something special late in the year. Rodgers threw eight wide receivers, caught at least 2 passes last night. That's Aaron Rodgers football right there. 281 yards. He's back. That feels a lot like a statement performance, letting you know, like, hey, I'm still this good. I said I wanted to play 2 years with the Jets. This is the level that I want to play for 2 years at the Jets with. And so shout out him and what a comeback from the Achilles, and to look that healthy in prime time, and the Jets to get their first win over the Patriots after losing 8 straight is, I mean, that's got to feel good, right? Got to feel good in a first big division win. So great start to the weekend. Great start to the football weekend. I know it was a blowout, but anytime you get to watch Rodgers deal like that, it's pretty fun and it's pretty special. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about on the way out about Aaron Rodgers is the line of scrimmage, him changing the plays and doing the checks and all that stuff. Let me know in the comments or tweet me or hit me on Instagram. But is he the last guy that we're ever going to see in our lifetime do that kind of stuff? I genuinely believe the answer might be yes. I think Mahomes does a little bit of it, but nobody does it to the extent of what Rodgers does. I mean, he takes that play clock down to nothing every time. And I believe on the touchdown pass to Lazard, it's supposed to be a run play, but Rodgers just sees one-on-one with this guy. He's like, I'm going to give Allen a chance, and gives it to him. And then there was another play that I remember in the first half where he checks to a run play and Breece Hall goes 10 yards up the middle. So I just don't know if we're ever going to be able to, I don't know if we're ever going to have a guy that's going to do that again. And it was so special because forever, I mean, it felt like my whole life we had, Big Ben would do it, kind of, and Rodgers would do it all the time, and Brady could do it, and Manning was the best at it. And then you had Drew Brees doing it as well. It's just, it feels like the more and more we get away from truly developing quarterbacks and teaching them systems and all of these things that Rodgers has had for his career, the further we get away from that ever being a reality again, which is sad. But I hope you guys enjoyed that last night as much as I do, because hearing him make checks and make calls, and then you see their positive plays, it's just it's like watching a guy call a defense on, like call an offense on the field. It's truly special, and Rodgers could be such a good coach when he's done, but he's Aaron Rodgers, and rarely do those guys ever coach. So just wanted to point out my appreciation for that, and hope that he isn't the last guy we ever get to see do some of those truly special things at the line of scrimmage, because boy, that was fun last night, and he was carving that Patriots defense up all night. So shout out the Jets, 24-3 win over the Patriots. Weekend is off to a good start in the NFL. And now let's go ahead and get to the Week 3 preview and predictions portion of the podcast. All right, let's hop into the Week 3 preview portion of the podcast. It is Thursday, September 19th. I'm recording this about 3 o'clock on Thursday. So if any injury updates or anything happens during that time until you watch this, sorry about it. I'm recording this at 3, so I have all the injury updates that I've gotten so far on Thursday, and we'll try to give you the best preview that we can based on the knowledge or based on the information that I had when I started recording this. So much more balanced slate of games as opposed to last week. We had 10 in the morning and then 3 in the afternoon. This one, I believe it's 7 and 5, and then a Sunday night football game. But there is 2 Monday night games, which is always an interesting play. But we're going to start with the morning slate on Sunday. First game that we're going to talk about is one of the 2 games between undefeated teams, and that is the Houston Texans at the Minnesota Vikings. Houston favored by 2.5. The over-under is 46.5. The books are expecting some points. I like that they're trying to get people with Houston minus 2.5. You never know what could happen in this game, but this is one of the only 2 games featuring 2-0 teams. There's not many 2-0 teams left, obviously, but these are 2 of them. And these 2 teams have looked like 2 of the best teams that we've seen so far this season. Obviously, we expected Houston to be as good as they've looked with adding Joe Mixon, Daniil Hunter, and of course they have C.J. Stroud going into year 2 with Stephon Diggs and some more weapons. And then the Vikings, there were some question marks about, could Sam Darnold be the Baker Mayfield of this season? Could Kevin O'Connell turn Sam Darnold into the quarterback that we thought he'd be coming out of USC? Well, through two games, they've done that. This is actually the first time both teams have been 2-0 since 2016, meaning not just both teams at the same time. Like Houston has not been 2-0 since 16, and neither has Minnesota. And that was actually Houston's last trip to Minnesota was in 2016. Funny enough. Let's go through the status of some of the key skill players on both sides. Justin Jefferson with a quad, Aaron Jones with a hip, and Jordan Addison. Sounds like Jefferson is going to play. You'd expect a guy of his caliber to play. Jordan Addison, he had an ankle injury, hurt in week one, didn't practice last week, and has not practiced as I'm recording this. And we'll see about Aaron Jones with the hip. He seems more like a probable potential game time decision. See how things play out in the next on today and as tomorrow goes. But I expect Jefferson to be able to go. There was no Nico Collins, Joe Mixon, Dameon Pierce at practice on Wednesday. They all practiced on Thursday, so those guys look like they're good to go. Actually, I'm sorry, Mixon did not practice Thursday because of that hip drop tackle. So it'll be interesting to see if he'll be able to go. He's been their workhorse so far until he got hurt in that last game. And then Nico Collins is clearly their number one receiver. So might be a week for Joe Mixon. You might miss him this weekend. We'll see how the next couple of days play out and how he wakes up Sunday. But Nico Collins probably expected to go this weekend. And then I wanted to talk about the Vikings defense. So you guys probably saw the clip of Brock Purdy going up to Brian Flores, the Vikings defensive coordinator, after the game and saying, "Your scheme is crazy." And I'm sure that was probably the craziest scheme Purdy potentially had seen outside of maybe Spagnuolo in the Super Bowl. But the Vikings defense blitzing this season, they've blitzed on 33 dropbacks, which is the most in the NFL. They have the most sacks on blitzes, 5, most pressures, 13, and most quarterback hits at 10. So they have been super successful blitzing the quarterback this season. And that's what I think Purdy's probably talking about is you just really have no idea where they're coming from. Flores comes from the Belichick tree, so you'd expect them to have a lot of different looks week to week, and I'd expect them to have a whole different package this week for Houston. Now on the offensive the Vikings defense has done all that to pressure on blitzes. CJ Stroud has not thrown an interception since week 11 of 2023. That's 7 straight starts. So if Minnesota wants to create an advantage and win this football game, you'd have to expect that they're going to try to pressure CJ Stroud and blitz CJ Stroud in certain situations to try to get him to make a mistake. But it is a risky game because Stroud is one of the smartest quarterbacks already. He's shown that in the NFL. And he's got a litany of weapons that he can get the ball out to quick. So he'll have a bunch of hot routes or quick options to get the ball out of his hand. So that's probably the number one thing I'm going to be watching during this game on Sunday is how will Brian Flores attack the Texans, especially if they don't have Joe Mixon and it's not as much of a balanced attack. That'll be really interesting to me. CJ Stroud, it might be more on his shoulders on that right arm to go and win them the ball game on Sunday, but it's something that's definitely caught my eye that the Vikings have been so good blitzing the quarterback this season, which has led to them having much more defensive success than probably some others would have expected through 2 weeks with the pieces that they lost. Now, Sam Darnold obviously has been balling out offensively this season against the blitz. So the Vikings like to blitz defensively, and when other teams blitz Sam Darnold through 2 weeks, he's 8 of 8 for 207 yards and 3 touchdowns. Is that pretty good? I'd say so. So Sam Darnold has completely taken advantage of the blitz this season, which is crucial. If defenses are going to bring an extra one, that means you got one-on-one coverage somewhere, and Darnold has been able to take advantage of that to a ridiculous clip. I don't expect that to continue. Obviously, he's 8 for 8. He hasn't no incompletions there, but he's fully taken advantage of the blitz. And if the Texans, D'Amico is a very aggressive defensive coordinator, that'll be something to watch. So essentially, when you're watching this game on Sunday, you're watching for both quarterbacks against the blitz, because the Texans or the Vikings so far have the best blitz defense, and Sam Darnold maybe has been the best quarterback against the blitz this season if you're a Texans fan. So I'm very intrigued to see that I always like when it's a certain matchup or a certain type of thing that you're really honing in on, and blitzing the quarterback is something that we're all obviously accustomed to, and it's normal. But when you have this level of offensive play by Darnold and defensive play by the Vikings, it could be the key to winning or losing the game. If Stroud can take advantage of the Vikings blitzing, then the Texans should win. And if the Texans can take advantage of Darnold against the blitz, then they'll win. So that's my number one thing I'm watching in terms of gameplay during this game. In terms of off the field storylines, Stephon Diggs, first game back in Minnesota since he demanded a trade in 2020 or 2020, excuse me. It felt tumultuous there at the end that Diggs really wanted out and just wanted to be kind of anywhere else but Minnesota. He obviously has, got to be one of the top 3 moments in that franchise's history, if not number 1, the Minnesota Miracle. So that catch still is crazy to watch that video. I was just watching it on Twitter today. So what is Diggs like? What is Diggs like pregame? How is he received? Is he more worked into the game plan this week? Does Bobby Slowick try to get him a few touches early and get him involved in the offense and settle him down? I don't know the answer to that. I'm excited to see Diggs. He obviously had incredible years of his career. He became a Pro Bowler in Minnesota, and him and Thielen were a real problem there for quite a while, but it was tumultuous at the end, and it did get a little messy. So something to keep an eye on. Stephon Diggs, is he going to have a big game? Is he going to be quiet? Or are they going to try to use him as a decoy? Just something I'm looking for. And then also Danielle Hunter returns to Minnesota after 119 career games there. He's 6th in franchise history in sacks. He's going to want to get after those boys on the other side, and if they call blitzes, he's going to want to make sure that he leaves Minnesota with a dub, knowing that he made the right decision going to Houston and moving on from that situation. I love this game. Obviously, you have C.J. Stroud in the Texans, who are very fun to watch, and maybe the darlings of the NFL. They feel like the Bengals were a couple years ago. And now this Minnesota team with one of my favorite coaches in the whole NFL, in Kevin O'Connell, and then Sam Darnold, who you have to root for a guy like Sam Darnold, who's been put through so much with those two terrible situations, and now he's finally getting an opportunity to flourish and be the leader of the locker room, and so I'm still going to take the Texans minus 2.5 here. I do like the over, though, if I'm being honest. 46.5. This feels like easily could be a 27-20 ball game. It feels like that. But that also worries me that it might be a 24-20. Who knows? I'd still take the over because I think this game's good and I think you'll see points. But my play would be Houston minus 2.5 if I was going to bet the game. The over kind of scares me just a little bit at that number because you just never know. But I'd pick Houston minus 2.5. Next game is the other game of the weekend featuring 2 undefeated teams, or 2-0 teams, and that's the Chargers at the Steelers. Steelers are minus 1.5. The over-under is the lowest over-under of the week, and it's 35.5. Both teams rank top 5 in total defense. 0 rushing touchdowns allowed combined by the 2 units, and so this feels, and I know it's a Harbaugh versus Tomlin, but in terms of team identities, this feels exactly like a Ravens Steelers game. Jesse Minter was on the defensive staff in Baltimore. He's now the Chargers defensive coordinator. Obviously, Jim and John Harbaugh, similar styles. Greg Roman used to be the Ravens offensive coordinator. He's now the Chargers offensive coordinator. There's just so much carryover. This is going to be a Ravens Steelers game. It's going to feel like that. It's going to look like that. It's going to be a dogfight for 60 minutes. And if you're betting this game, both teams are 2-0 against the spread, and then both teams are 2-0 for the under. So, I mean, it's going to be a low scoring game. If you ask me, I think it'll be a low scoring game for sure. The Chargers defense has looked great. TJ Watt and the Steelers defense has looked incredible. Both the running games have been really solid. Arthur Smith's brought a nice element to the Steelers alongside Justin Fields and having, Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. And then J.K. Dobbins for the Chargers leads the NFL in rushing with 27 carries. I believe I saw a stat today that said if you add up J.K. Dobbins' 3 longest runs of the season, it would be more yards than Derrick Henry has this season. So J.K. is all the way back, and he's going to want some revenge on this Steelers team for sure. Someone he played in Baltimore for all those years, but missed a lot of those games. And when you're a Ravens or Steelers player, those are the games you want to be playing in. I know J.K. will be ready. I know Gus Edwards and a lot of those other guys, and it feels like an important game for the Chargers organization under this new regime, with having Harbaugh and all those people that came over from the Ravens front office. They do not like the Steelers, and so the most interesting, weird kind of stat that I saw for this game, the Chargers have 8 straight wins when playing in the Eastern Time Zone, which is the second longest streak since the merger by a Pacific time zone team. I didn't know that. I would have expected that to be we would be the worst team in that, but what a weird stat. 8 straight wins when playing in the Eastern Time Zone for a Pacific Time Zone team. The Chargers did stay in Charlotte all week at UNC Charlotte after playing the Carolina Panthers last week, obviously. So from what I've been hearing from Jim Harbaugh and the rest of the players, is it feels like it almost is an extended training camp kind of week, and feels like you're back at college. You got guys playing games and hanging out together and having team dinner. So for a new staff that's trying to introduce and embed their culture into the locker room, that's a great start. I love the week of staying there. You have to love it, and can only do positive things, right? Just team bonding and the dudes hanging out together and enjoying each other's company. This is the first time these two teams have played since the Sunday Night Football game in 2021. 41-37 Chargers win. That was I think that was Ben's last season. I think it was Ben's last season, but it was a crazy back and forth game. Cam Hayward took that weird cheap shot at Herbert, and Chargers ended up winning a super high scoring game, and that's when Chargers fans thought they were going to go to the playoffs, and inevitably we all know what happened against the Raiders in Week 18 that year. But Jim Harbaugh said this after their 2-0 start. Quote, "We'll really find out about our team this week." And I think that speaks volumes to what the Pittsburgh Steelers organization is and what a Mike Tomlin coach team is. They're consistent, physical, and you know exactly what they're going to do. They're going to run the football hard, and they're going to play defense and make you earn it, and they're probably not going to shoot themselves in the foot. So I'm very excited to see a Harbaugh versus Tomlin. I know there's an ultimate amount of respect there, and two of the best coaches in the NFL. But as a Chargers fan, you know exactly what you're going to get against the Steelers team. It's going to be a tough 60-minute battle, and you just hope to come out with one more point than them, because sometimes that truly is all you're ever going to get from the Steelers, is just beating them by 1 point, because they're just that resilient and that relentless. Justin Fields making third straight start for them. He's only manufactured 1 touchdown drive. Now they have had a lot of big plays taken away from them. He had that 50-yard bomb to George Pickens last week that I remember watching live and just kind of being like, oh, Fields is confident. I mean, he's making plays, he's rolling out, he's doing things. So some of those stats are kind of empty because of the fact that they've had so many penalties and things taken away, but have to manufacture some more touchdown drives. You know, Chris Boswell obviously made 6 field goals in week 1, but the field goals on a consistent basis aren't going to win you games against the best teams, some of the best teams and best coach teams in the NFL. There was a worry in Los Angeles about Justin Herbert's foot after he got kind of bent over and rolled up on during the game on Sunday. He was back at practice yesterday. If you know Justin Herbert, you know he's playing, so that's not even a point to be talking about. Troy Fautanu, rookie right tackle, will make his second straight start, and he's going to be going against Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. Joey Bosa has been off to a great start this season. He's had a sack in both games. He had a forced fumble in game one as well. Khalil Mack's been eating off the other edge, so something to keep an eye on as the Steelers are working in a young piece on the offensive line. If some of those veteran defensive ends, former defensive player of the year, Khalil Mack, can take advantage of a rookie and maybe get the Chargers up the field on a big third down, or be a big help in the run game. I think it's pretty simple that this game will be won in the trenches and by the team who can run the football better. It's usually how Steelers and Ravens games go. I would expect nothing different from this game here. But I think there's one major X factor in this game that one team has and the other team doesn't, and it's Justin Herbert. It has to be. You can call me biased all you want, but when you look at the teams, they're practically the exact same on defense in terms of production, in terms of skill, in terms of just being able to stop the run, play good against the pass. Their offenses are very similar. Not loaded at wide receiver, have some explosive playmakers, good O-line. Chargers definitely have an advantage on the O-line. Great set of running backs, a tandem back there, and they both want to run the football a bunch. But what's the difference? Biggest difference is the guy under center. No disrespect to Justin Fields, but he's not Justin Herbert. Now, Herbert has not had a great start to the season statistically, but they're 2-0 for the first time in his career. I think if Herbert has to make plays and the game and situation calls for it, he will make those plays, and Greg Roman will give him opportunities to make those plays. People want to call Justin Herbert not clutch, not this, not that. Find the stats about his defense when they give up a certain amount of points or less. Just find it for yourself, because he's very good. He's led so many drives where they go and tie the game and then the defense gives it up. Or they go and win the game. It just doesn't compute. I think Herbert is a clutch player. I think if the situation calls for it, for him to have to go win the game in a big drive where they need a big throw, he'll make the throw. And obviously for that reason, you're not going to hear me pick against the Chargers one time this season probably. I'm going to take the Chargers minus 1.5 or plus 1.5, but I would bet the under in this game. I wouldn't bet the spread, because I think the Steelers could easily win this game. Easily. But the Steelers could also win this game by 1, which would be a hilarious cover for a Chargers fan, but also would suck to lose. But my bet in this game would be the under 35.5. I think this game has 17-10, 17-14, whatever, written all over it. I don't see, unless you get some explosive plays by Fields and Pickens and then Herbert and maybe Dobbins in the run game, I just think this thing goes under 35.5, especially in Pittsburgh with the Harbaugh versus the Tomlin. Next game, Philadelphia Eagles at New Orleans Saints. Saints are favored by 2.5. Over-under is 49.5. Honestly thought the over-under might be higher, because the Saints have almost scored that number by themselves in the first 2 weeks. I mean, they had 47-44, so Eagles, you know it. You watched the podcast on Wednesday. It was not good. They can't lose that game on Wednesday, but they have to be able to bounce back on a short week against the hottest offense in the NFL. Saints have won the last 3 matchups in New Orleans and won 3 of the last 5. The Saints offense with Derek Carr, you've probably seen this stat floating already on the internet. 15 drives, 15 scores, 11 of them touchdowns. That's ridiculous to start a season. They're averaging 220 pass yards per game, which is 11th, but they're averaging 185 rush yards per game, which is 3rd. You couple that together, what do you get? You get the number 1 offense in the league so far. And then the Saints have the number 7 overall defense, which might be a surprise. They've been playing great defense. Hopefully they can have Tyrann Mathieu on the field this weekend. Demario Davis has still been playing well. Chase Young hasn't done anything for them statistically yet, but the Saints defense seems to be flying around. Marshawn Lattimore, of course, is still there. My focus in this game, as from a fan's perspective, is the running back matchup. I mean, two of the best in the league. Alvin Kamara has been the best running back probably in the league so far. Him and Dobbins. He has 290 yards and 5 touchdowns, and then Saquon has 3 touchdowns. All of them were scored in the first game, and his season looks a little bit different if he just catches that ball on third down, and they're 2-0 as well. But this is a premier running back matchup, and one that I'm very excited about. I'm intrigued to see if Saquon and Hurts can run the football and use their option game to be able to take advantage of the Saints defense. The Saints defense also has been in plus situations for pretty much the entire game, the first 2 games, because when you score 35 in the first half, the first 2 weeks, your defense really isn't facing like a real offense because they're so far behind in the game that they have to call things a little bit differently. So I think that could be, if the Eagles keep this thing close and don't get their doors blown off, we might learn something new about the Saints defense and maybe just how good it is. Or maybe that it's just, not as good as we thought, and they played Carolina, and then the Dallas offense was just having to throw the ball the whole time. But I don't suspect that to be the case. I suspect Philly will keep it close, but I don't expect we'll find out that the Saints defense isn't very good. I don't expect that at all. CJ Gardner-Johnson did miss practice on Thursday for the Eagles. He is junkyard dog, the lifeblood of that defense. It feels like the heartbeat, I guess is the word I might have been looking for there. But I love watching him play. Remember, he was in the Detroit last year with the ski mask and doing all that. Just exactly what you need from a DB, and perfect for the city of Philly. I can't think that there's a single person in Philly that doesn't like CJ Gardner-Johnson. That'd be hard to believe, to be honest. So would be key if they can get him on the field, especially against the Saints offense that's been humming and rolling. No A.J. Brown again. It sounds like it may be a little more serious, the hamstring, than people, or than initially reported, excuse me. The Eagles kind of need A.J. Brown on the field. Not kind of. The Eagles need A.J. Brown on the field to be an elite team. They need A.J. Brown. I'm not saying Devontae can't be a number 1, but A.J. Brown is a freak show and one of the best receivers in the NFL, and has one of the best connections with Jalen Hurts as well. So you would have to imagine that Hurts wants him back on the field. The Eagles in general want him back on the field, but I think it significantly lowers their ceiling and raises their floor. Excuse me, I said that wrong. It completely lowers their ceiling when A.J. Brown is not on the field. And it may make their floor even worse. So they need to get A.J. Brown back ASAP. They haven't put him on IR yet, so doesn't sound like he's going to need at least 4 weeks to recover from this thing. But those hamstrings are no joke, because you come back too early, you rip that thing, your season's over, or you come back too soon, boom, now you're out for another 4. So it's something to watch, and you saw Hurts run a lot more on Monday night than he did when he had A.J. Brown on the field in week 1. It's my main question for each team. Can the Saints offense stay this hot, obviously? And how and will Philadelphia respond from the loss? I read a quote before I hopped on here, that Reed Blankenship told media that no coaches talked in the locker room after the game, just Jalen Hurts, which I think is awesome. Player-led team, these are grown men. They know exactly what they did wrong. But I also do think that it may be a little bit of an indictment on Nick Sirianni in terms of what the players think about him. It's just a thought. I'm not saying it is for sure, but I think Jalen's that kind of guy anyways, but it is weird when your head coach probably doesn't talk after the game at all. But really, what does the head coach say in that situation when players know that they fucked that game up? I'm betting the over in this game. I'm staying away from the spread because I don't really know what the Saints are yet. I think they're really good, but I'm not 100% sure yet. if I was betting the spread, I'd probably take the Saints just because they're at home. But my bet's going to be the over 49.5. You have to bet that Saints will continue to score. And the Eagles' offense has been good too. I think this is a 31-27 game, which means if you like the Saints to win, they cover that thing. But 31-27 would be 31-27, 31-28. One of those two would be my score prediction here for this game. Over 49.5. Let's go Chicago at Indianapolis now. I think this is going to be a massive dialogue game in terms of Twitter quarterbacks. People that just say whatever they say, anything about quarterbacks on Twitter. Chicago is at Indianapolis, and the Colts are favored by 1.5. The over-under is 43.5. I was a little surprised by that, especially when you think that the Bears' offense has scored one touchdown, and that the Bears' defense is pretty good, and that the Colts turn the ball, or Anthony Richardson, I should say, turns the ball over a lot. I mean, it's a battle of young quarterbacks in this one. Obviously, Caleb making his third career start after kind of getting beat up on Sunday Night Football, and then Anthony Richardson, made some spectacular plays in week 1 and did some things that, just wow you. And then in week 2, he turns the ball over 3 times and it looks bad. And it looks like he really can't throw and make the simple throws that he needs to get the offense to hum and run. And their running game hasn't really been very good either. Matt Eberflus, Bears head coach, is going back to Indy. He was the Colts defensive coordinator from 2018 to 2021. They had a pretty good defense a couple of those years and was kind of the only thing holding them up. I know Colts fans, would rather have him than Gus Bradley. Speaking of Anthony Richardson, I saw this stat on Twitter. His 49% completion, that's his completion percentage this year. The Colts have the number 1 pass blocking offensive line in the league, according to Pro Football Focus. How does that happen? You have the number 1 pass blocking offensive line, which means you probably have the most amount of time to throw, but yet you have less than 50% completion. It means he's got no touch. He's got no feel. He's a freak athlete. I mean, imagine if he was like a tight end, but he's a quarterback. He's got to get more touch on his throws and be able to deliver balls where they need to, because the Colts offense has not been consistent enough or shown. I mean, they lost 26-20 last week, I think was the score, or 16-10, excuse me. They lost to the Colts 16-10. Am I tripping? Did they lose to the Colts 16? Or did they lose to the Packers, excuse me? 16-10. Yeah. They didn't score that touchdown. They were losing 16-3 for most of that game. So it's like their offense has to score points. Especially, Chicago's got a good defense, but I think Indianapolis has to prove something offensively that they can move the ball and not turn it over. Now, this is going to be a hilarious matchup because the Colts have the 31st total defense and the Bears have the 31st total offense. The Colts are giving up 400 yards per game. They gave up 261 rushing yards last week. And then the Bears are only averaging 176 yards per game with 1 offensive touchdown this season. That's why the over-under is the 43.5. Because that defense is terrible. So they have to be expecting Caleb Williams to finally break out in their offense to connect and do something, which I also would expect to be the case, because Caleb is 56% completion this year, 4 yards per attempt, 4 yards per attempt, and then 267 yards and 2 touchdowns in 2 games. I would expect that the rookies have their best week yet. I would expect the rookie quarterbacks have their best week yet. And obviously that's not saying much when you look at the last 2 weeks, but I'll go on a limb here and say Caleb Williams throws a touchdown this week. Now, Possibility they have no Keenan Allen again, who's still recovering from a heel injury. It was weird. Keenan played in week 1 and then kind of re-aggravated it and then hasn't played since. It was an injury he suffered in camp. I think Caleb, being a Chargers fan, like, that was one of the main keys that helped Herbert in his rookie year, was just having a security blanket of a guy like Keenan Allen, who you knew, all right, it's 3rd and 7. We got to get right there. I know Keenan's going to stop right here and get the first down for me, and I'm going to throw him the ball. So I think Keenan could be a really big help in security and comfort for Caleb Williams when he comes back. But as of right now, it's looking unlikely that Keenan Allen will play on Sunday. These are my 2 points. These are my 2 things I have to see from this game. The Bears must show progress on offense, especially with how bad this Colts defense has been. And the Colts have to prove that they can stop anybody on defense. You might get a little bit of both on Sunday, but ultimately, what will it mean? Because if the Bears go out there and light up the Colts probably have a shitty defense. We can just say it as it is. Now, if the Colts stop the Bears all day, I think the Bears offense is in serious trouble. Serious trouble if they can't manufacture some stuff on Sunday. My pick here would be the over. 24-21. 24-20. One of those two. The Colts can score touchdowns. I know they can score touchdowns because Anthony Richardson is so explosive. Can Caleb Williams in this offense manufacture some stuff together? And maybe they only need to get 14 because the next 7 will come from the defense, and then they'll get a game-winning field goal. Who knows? But I'm picking the over in this game. Over 43.5 is my pick there. All right, last 3 games of the morning window. You got Denver at Tampa. Tampa's favored by 6.5, and the over-under is 40.5. So the Bucs, they're seeking their first 3-0 start since 2005. They currently have the number 1 scoring offense right now. So it's been 20 years since the Bucs started 3-0. They started 3-1 last year. I think they started 3-0 this week. I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on this game. I think you guys know my feelings about Baker Mayfield now and what I think about this Tampa team. I was so impressed with their defense last week, being down a couple of guys and making plays against Detroit, specifically in the red zone, because they held them to 1 of 7 in the red zone and created some turnovers. Tampa Bay, in case you're a gambler out there, listen to this. Tampa Bay's 11-5 versus rookie quarterbacks since Todd Bowles took over the defense in 2019. Veteran defensive coordinator, veteran head coach now. He eats up rookie quarterbacks. Bo Nix has not had a good start to the career. 59% completion, 384 yards, and 4 interceptions. Maybe anytime Bo Nix turnover bet is not a bad play. Baker Mayfield has a 129 passer rating, 474 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 1 pick this year. He's on MVP watch through 2 games. Relax. I said through 2 games. Chris Godwin, also second in the NFL in receiving. Receptions at 15 and receiving yards at 200. But Tampa they probably will be down a couple of key guys on Thursday. On Sunday. Antoine Winfield Jr. not expected to play again this weekend. Vita Vea and Luke Gedeke, who's their right tackle, they both did not practice on Thursday. And Aiden Hutchinson had 4.5 sacks, against the Buccaneers backup right tackle this last week. Now, Denver has nobody near the level of Aiden Hutchinson on their defensive line, but he struggled last week. And if you're Todd Bowles in that Tampa team, you're really hoping to get Luke Gedeke back on that offensive line. The Broncos offense, so I told you Bo Nix's numbers. Broncos, obviously they haven't won a game yet, but they have only scored 1 touchdown, and they have 163 total rushing yards. I don't know if Sean Payton's just lost his touch or if he was a Drew Brees merchant, and those Saints teams are just that good, and his system works perfectly with Drew Brees. I don't think that's the case. I think Sean Payton's a hell of a coach, but Bo Nix has not looked good at all. At all. Now he doesn't have an abundance of weapons, but he has enough. I mean, they got enough, but that team's pretty bad. So, and I think they just placed Mike McGlinchey on IR, so that doesn't help either. I'd expect the Broncos to be picking in the top 3 in the draft this upcoming year. I'm just going to say that. My pick here would be Tampa minus 6.5, and then I would probably take the under in this game because I think this game has a chance to be like 30-3 for Tampa. I would take the under, but if my bet would be Tampa minus 6.5, but I kind of love the under as well. Next one, Green Bay at Tennessee. Tennessee's favored by 2.5, and the over/under is 37.5. Not surprised on that over/under, obviously. Obviously, number one thing here is Jordan Love. He was a limited participant in practice Wednesday and Thursday. Matt LaFleur had this to say yesterday, quote, "We'll give him up until kickoff, 90 minutes. So he just said Jordan Love's a game time decision. Jordan Love's a game time decision. If Jordan Love plays, honestly, it might not even be bad just to bet the Packers plus 2.5 right now, even if Jordan Love doesn't play. But if you get Jordan Love in there, there's no way you're getting that lineup at plus 2.5 anyway. So I kind of expect Jordan Love to play on Sunday. It helps that they won this last week, so it's not like pressing. They're not 0-2 right now and need him back no matter what. But I do expect Jordan Love to play this weekend. If it isn't Jordan Love, it will be Malik Willis again, who had 11 career games at the Titans. He did not throw a touchdown. He did throw 3 interceptions, though. And Willis had a really nice quote about the Titans. He was like, "No, I'm not, no animosity, just, so thankful they gave me an opportunity." I thought that was pretty cool for a young guy to in the world that we live in today, a young guy just being like, "Nah, fuck that. They gave me an opportunity to be in this league, and now I'm in Green Bay because of it." So I thought that was cool. But I also think Tennessee could be getting overlooked because of their record. They would be 2-0 if it wasn't for Will Levis. Specifically, they would be 2-0 probably without 2 plays. The pick 6 in the Chicago game, and then the interception or the throwback dive fumble this last week. That was the second one was a Carson Wentz play, which it was wild. I mean, we talked about it enough. It's just a weird spot for Tennessee to be in because they would feel so much better about themselves if they were at least just 1-1, let alone 2-0. But now they're in a kind of a high pressure spot here at home against potentially a backup quarterback in a team who just ran for 261 yards on the ground last week and has the number 1 rushing offense. Now, the Titans' defense, they're number 1 in total defense. 206 yards given up per game. They only give up 114 passing yards and 92.5 rushing yards. So the Packers would probably hope to have Jordan Love back. Because if they don't, I don't know if Malik Willis is going to be able to throw the ball at all against this defense. But L'Jarius Sneed and Jeffrey Simmons both came back to practice on Thursday, so expect the Titans to be at full strength because Tajay Spears practiced as well. Titans, if they're going to win this game, have to correct the turnover margin. They're currently the worst in the league at -4. Well, Levis has 4 of those. They have more than 4 turnovers, but Levis has 4. And they're -4. So, guys got to cut the fucking turnovers out of his game or else his career could be shortened. Because remember, new coaching staff, new GM. I think there's a new GM in Tennessee. I'm almost positive. Maybe there's not, but new coach for sure, which means he's not married to Will Levis. He didn't draft Will Levis. That's not his guy, quote unquote, his guy. And you saw him on the sidelines go, "What the fuck are you doing?" And then you heard him in the press conference basically say he's a grown man. He knows better. So we'll see how long Callahan sticks with Levis if he continues to be a dummy and make those mistakes. Levis has all the tools physically to be great, but their offensive line has not been very good either. I saw a stat that he's been pressured on 10% of his career dropbacks in Tennessee, which is a wild number to think of. This is a complete stay the fuck away from, do not bet game for me. Just don't even touch it. Don't even look at it. It's like that That scene from The Hangover when Alan is, at the gas station and the guy says, nice car. And he says, don't touch it. Don't even look at it. That is exactly what this game is for me. Don't touch it. Don't look at it. Move the fuck on. Probably would bet the under if I had to. 37.5 feels safe that these two teams ain't scoring 38 points combined. All right, last game of the morning slate. How nice is this? Only 7. Giants at Browns. Browns are favored by 6.5. This over-under is 38.5. Myles Garrett missed practice on Wednesday and Thursday. Obviously, you're listening to this on a Friday. There may be news out. Check Twitter and see if he's playing. But something interesting that I thought, if Myles Garrett doesn't play, not the end of the world when you're playing the Giants, but this Browns defense had one great week and one not so great week. I think they would like to build on the great one they just had in week 2. David Njoku is expected to miss his second straight game with a knee injury. This game's sure. I'll watch it. I guess it's on TV. If I have my setup going, which is 4 TVs there on the, excuse me. I have 4 TVs, 4 games on the big TV, 1 main game above them, and then a red zone here on the laptop. They will not make the 4 or the 5. So honestly, if I had to choose 2 games out of the early window that I'm not watching, it's probably these last 2. Giants at Cleveland. The only thing I really wanted to talk about in this Browns-Giants game, a couple things, but really the main thing. Check your Twitter and find some videos of Mike Vrabel just coaching up the offensive linemen and tight ends for the Browns. How is this possible that this man, Mike Vrabel, is not a head coach in the NFL, but is instead just a consultant with the Browns, just putting in work with the tight ends in the offensive linemen? I thought that was so sick. And it has to help that team so much. Mike Vrabel is a top 10 head coach in the NFL right now, and he's not even a head coach. So I just thought that was cool. I love seeing Vrabel. I miss him in the NFL as a head coach. He's going to be a head coach next year. I can guarantee that. But Browns bringing in Vrabel to work with them is a huge pickup for just that, their whole blocking scheme and their whole, mentality from those positions. I wonder about what the conversation in New York becomes if they lose, because they do have the Cowboys next week, so you're staring down 0-4. Do they keep Brian Daboll all year? Man, he's such a better coach than what he's been able to show in New York. He led them to the playoffs, which is crazy, but Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, brought up this point, and I wanted to bring it to you guys in case you didn't hear it. Daniel Jones has an injury guarantee of $25 million next season if he gets hurt this year. Which means if he gets hurt and he has a season-ending injury this year, or just injury, $25 million guaranteed for next year. Which means the Giants cannot move on from him if that happens. Does the conversation start to happen if they lose this week and they lose the Cowboys and they're 0-4? Do you move to Drew Lock so Daniel Jones doesn't get hurt and you can release him after the season's over and start fresh in the quarterback room? Not my original thought. Like I said, Mike Florio talked about this, and I wanted to bring it to your attention. I think it's something that we could see happen because it happened to Russell. Happened to Russell Wilson last year in Denver. They ask him to rework his contract. He says no. They say, hey, you're benched because we're not paying you your fucking injury guarantee. It's not something light, but that is something to keep an eye on as the season goes on, and especially if the Giants lose again, which I'm predicting this weekend. I'm not betting this game. Why would you? You're going to bet on Deshaun Watson or Daniel Jones? Good luck. Fuck that. That's your morning slate of games for you. I got Houston minus 2.5. I have the Chargers, Steelers under. I have the Eagles, Saints over. I have Bears, Colts over. I got Tampa Bay and Denver under. And then stay the fuck away from Green Bay at Tennessee and Giants at the Browns. Okay, let's go to the afternoon slate now. Afternoon slate. Where you at? Okay. First game of the afternoon slate. Baltimore at Dallas. Baltimore's favored by 1 point. Now, I'm recording this on Thursday, remember? So if the lines have changed, I wouldn't be surprised. But right now, Baltimore's favored by a point, and the over-under is 48.5. I like that over. There's no way this isn't must win situation for Baltimore. I'm going to read you a stat right here. One team since 2001 has made the playoffs after starting 0-3. 0 have won the Super Bowl. So if the Ravens lose this week, they're not winning the Super Bowl, and they're probably not going to the playoffs. Must fucking win. Must win. And it comes against a Dallas team who just got their shit rocked last week by the Saints. In Baltimore, for Baltimore, they got to go Buffalo at Cincy the next two after this anyways. So there's no light work for them in any way, shape, or form. Now, if you're Baltimore, Dallas's defense has given up 92 points in the last two home games, dating back to the Green Bay game in the playoffs last year. That's the most since 1960 for a Dallas team. 1960. So there's some question marks, or the Saints are just that good. But both defenses have some serious questions to answer, because the Cowboys, 6 straight touchdown drives last week. They did have a good week 1 versus Cleveland. The Ravens, 17.7% of their snaps are explosive plays. 17% of the time the Ravens have a play called on them, it is going for 15 yards or more. That can't happen. Ever. And it's happening 1 every 5 plays in Baltimore right now. They're supposed to be the explosive offense and the one that, gives people all these troubles, and instead, they're getting their ass kicked on defense. CeeDee Lamb, Drake Ferguson, and Trayvon Diggs are all expected to play for the Cowboys on Sunday, which is good news if you're a Cowboys fan, because you need all the offensive weapons you can get after last week's debacle, and you sure as hell need Trayvon Diggs to at least, show something for that Ravens defense to be worried about. Kyle Hamilton, Ronnie Stanley, and Kyle Van Noy all practiced as well yesterday for the Ravens, so both teams expected to be pretty much at full strength in a situation that is going to be a marquee spot. I'm going to guess this game's going to be on Fox. It's a 125 game. Tom Brady's probably calling it, which will be people will really get introduced to Tom Brady, the broadcaster, on Sunday. Then it looks like, if that is the Fox game, Fox is America's game of the week. So I don't know what to think about Baltimore right now. I really don't, because the last time they looked like this, it felt like it was that year they went 5-11, where everyone was kind of just like, what just happened? I don't know if I have faith in Baltimore, but I also have so many questions about Dallas. You can't really feel great about either team coming into this game this week, which is weird. These are two teams we both penciled into the playoffs before the season started. And in Dallas's case, they're in a weaker, conference in the NFC, so it could be easier to respond from a 1-2 start. But regardless, the reality of this game is we leave Sunday with the Ravens 3-0 and the Cowboys 2-1, or both teams 1-2. That's the only scenario we have. So this could get very, very loud on Monday. It will be very loud for one team on Monday. That is my bold prediction, is that whoever loses this game will be the focus of the get-ups, the first takes of the world on Monday. Especially if Baltimore loses 0-3, and if Dallas loses back-to-back weeks, and let's say Baltimore looks like Baltimore of last year and blows them out, boy, does that conversation get loud. You have to pick Baltimore here. You rely on history, coaching, and culture in this situation in terms of that pick. 48.5 seems like a big number for those teams, but the defenses have both been so bad that you don't hate it. But the Cowboys have had one good week, one bad week. But my pick is it has to be Baltimore, because this is when Lamar has to show. I mean, he doesn't have to show me, but he has to prove why they pay him this much money. They can't lose this game. And it's the same spot for Dak, because they both make an absurd amount of money. Both quarterbacks, same reality lies ahead of them, that we don't pay you all this money to lose these games and start the season 1-2. We just don't. But I'm going to pick Baltimore. I hope Baltimore wins because I don't want them out of the season this early at 0-3. Next game of the afternoon window that I love, Detroit at Arizona. Detroit's favored by 3. And this game has, you guessed it, shocker, the highest over-under of the week at 51.5. 51.5. Scoring's down this year, except for these two teams, it feels like. I think the number one question we get answered on Sunday in this game is if the Cardinals are a real team. Win or lose. Win or lose, I think we find out if the Cardinals are a real team. They blew the brakes off the Rams so quick last week, we didn't even really get a game there. Week 1, they played great against Buffalo, but, were leading early and then gave it up late. Detroit's obviously, an NFC finalist last year, or an NFC championship game finalist, I should say, and struggled last week, and you're hosting Detroit. If you can get that win at home, boy, the conversation around the Cardinals changes quickly. But the Lions, they haven't lost 2 straight since they started 1-6 and 22, and that was pretty much when the Lions, who we know them as now, started. Was after that game. Was after they started 1-6. And so the Dan Campbell era, they haven't lost back-to-back games, so I would expect the Lions to be ready to play. And I think this is going to be a physical game. People probably don't think about the Cardinals as a physical team. That dude Gannon's a psycho. He is. I promise you. Both teams have top 10 offenses. Both teams have top 15 defenses. This is a premier game. I love this game. I love the quarterback matchup in this game, and I love love the offenses for both of these teams. Marvin went crazy. Marvin Harrison Jr. went crazy last week, and we know what the Lions' offense possesses. They have to get Laporta going. He only has 6 catches for 58 yards through 2 games, and he had 86 catches in last year, which is a rookie record. So the biggest issue with the Lions, I don't want to say right now, but last week, they went 1 for 7 in the red zone. That's the only reason the Bucs beat them, with having 200 less yards than them. The Lions have to get that red zone offense going. It's weird because last year they either handed it to Montgomery or Gibbs, or just threw it to Laporta or St. Brown in the red zone, and it worked like every time. So I don't know if that's just been a weird thing these first 2 games, but they need to score 7 to end these drives and not kick field goals, or else they would probably be they would be 2-0 right now, and if Goff doesn't throw the interception late or deep in the red zone last week. I'd expect Marvin Harrison Jr.'s breakout to continue. I don't know if he's going to have 4 catches and 2 touchdowns in the first quarter again, but I expect Marvin to continuously grow into the NFL, grow into that offense, and become their number 1 by the end of the season, if he's not already right now. And can the Cardinals block Aiden Hutchinson? That's probably the biggest question of the game for me. Can the Cardinals block Aiden Hutchinson? Now, he did go against the backup right tackle last week, and he had 4.5 sacks. That's exactly what's supposed to happen when you're Aiden Hutchinson and you go against the backup right tackle. Does he continue that this week and attack those tackles? We'll see. But I think Hutch is one of the best defensive players in the league, and he could easily wreck this game for Kyler Murray, who is not big, but Hutch is relentless. And if Kyler scrambles around too long in the wrong areas, Hutchinson will light him up. My pick for this game is the over. Who doesn't want to see 52 points scored in this game? I'm going to give you a 37-34 final in this game. Way over. 37-34 is my... Actually, let's go 34-27. 34-27. I'll take the Lions to win, but my bet is the over. Over 51.5 there. Next up, San Francisco at the Rams. San Francisco is favored by 6.5. Over-under is 43.5. It's pretty obvious what the conversation is in this one. No Puka, no Cooper, Kupp for the Rams. No Christian McCaffrey, no Deebo Samuel for the Niners. And also George Kittle didn't practice yesterday. Hopefully by the time this comes out and you're listening to this, George Kittle is back at practice. But we could be down to 5 players with maybe the biggest name value in this game. And those 4 skill players plus George Kittle. Now the 49ers, they've won 9 of the last 10 regular season matchups. They beat the Rams. The Rams beat the 49ers. I believe it was week 18 last year when they rested Purdy and the rest of the starters. 49ers are 11-1 in the division the last 2 years, and the only one was when they didn't play their starters. So really they're 11-0. Purdy's never lost to the division. He's 7-0 as a starter. This will be the San Francisco's first game without either Christian McCaffrey or Deebo Samuel on the field since week 13 of 2021. I believe Brock Purdy was still throwing touchdowns at Iowa State then. So I thought it would have been longer. I guess they've just had opposite weeks that they've missed, but it's been 3 years since they haven't had one of those guys on the field for a game. So it has to be something to keep your eye on. Is what is this? Who steps up for this 49ers offense? Do they just continue to hand it to Jordan Mason? Does Brandon Ayuk finally get into rhythm after missing a lot of training camp? I'm not sure, but Purdy has the most yards in the NFL this year. And don't sleep on the boy Juwan Jennings, who's a very good receiver, slept on. The Rams have the worst ranked defense in the NFL. They've given up 394 rushing yards in 2 games. Not the team you want to be facing with the worst rushing defense in the NFL. Good thing Christian McCaffrey's not playing, but probably bet the over in Jordan Mason's rushing yards. Maybe a touchdown as well. Big return for the 49ers and 49ers fans. Talanoa Hufanga from USC tore his ACL last year. He will make his season debut on Sunday. He has not played a game since last November. It'll be nice to see him back. A lot of people thought he might have been the missing piece from the Super Bowl team when he went down. And they still ended up making it to the Super Bowl, but people think he could be the ultimate piece because you never know. It could just be one player's personality or a play he makes. You never know, but this kid's a freak, and he is kind of like a mini Palomalu out there. So excited to see him back on the field come Sunday. My bet in this game, I'm going to take the Niners 6.5. I think they win by a touchdown. I don't know if I would bet the over because I don't think the Rams are going to be able to score enough points. So San Francisco by a touchdown would be my minus 6.5. It's pretty easy play for me here. Miami at Seattle now. Seahawks are favored by 4 points, and the over-under is 41.5. I found that incredibly weird that the Seahawks were favored by just 4 against Skylar Thompson and not Tua Tagovailoa. That's sus. I'm a little suspect. Skylar Thompson has not started a game since the wild card game he played at Buffalo, where he went 18 of 45 for 220 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. But they did have the ball last in that game with a chance to go win it. They lost 34-31, but he has not started a game in 2 years. But yet, for some reason, the Seahawks, who are undefeated at 2-0, with Mike McDonald in that defense, have only are favored by less than a touchdown and just barely more than a field goal. Now, Tua went on IR. I said on Wednesday's podcast that I didn't expect Tua to be out this long because I didn't think he would actually go on IR. I thought they would try to, 10 days. They would try to bring him back for this weekend. Very happy to see that he is going on IR and that he's being given the proper amount of time to recover and make the decision that he needs to make. Those concussions are very scary. And so Tua being out 4 weeks, just good, wishing him good health, and hopefully he makes the right decision for himself and his family. But I do selfishly hope to see Tua play football again. He is a fun player to watch play when he's slinging that pill to Tyreek Hill and those boys. But health comes first, family comes first. So Tua, wishing you the best. Seattle possibly down Kenneth Walker, for the second straight game with an oblique. It wasn't good last week because they had 46 rushing yards against New England last week, only 2.5 per carry. Now their offensive line isn't great, but 46 rush yards is pretty awful. New England does have a good defense, respect to them, but Seattle's got to get their run game going. Have to get their run game going because their passing game was incredible last week. It might have been Geno's best game of his career. Smith and Jigba and DK both over 10 catches, both over 100 yards as well. So if Seattle can get this run game going and continue to play a solid defense, they can be a threat in this NFC West, especially with the Niners kind of dealing with the injury bug. And the Seahawks, they haven't started 3-0 since 2020, the last time they won the division, 2020. So if they win on Sunday, they're on path to go win a division and at least compete at the very highest level with the 49ers. I like Seattle and the under in this game. I wouldn't bet both, but I do like the under, 41.5. Feels like a 24-13 win, Seahawks. Was that 37 points right there? Yeah. My bet would be Seattle -4, though. I think they win this game by 6 points, 8 points maybe. Pretty easy decision for me there. All right. Last game of the afternoon window. And there's a reason why we saved it for last. It is the Panthers at the Raiders. Hey, you're going to say, Park, you saved this one for last because it's the shittiest game. No, I wanted to talk about the Panthers. Vegas is favored by 5, and the over-under is 39.5. All the focus is on Andy Dalton this week. All the focus kind of the whole NFL week has been on the Panthers and the decision that they made, moving on from Bryce Young just 18 games into his career. Now, they said they aren't trading him. That's not what they're doing. But they are moving on to Andy Dalton, who only started one game last year for Bryce Young when he was hurt. 34 for 58, 361, and 2 touchdowns in a loss. But they threw the ball 58 times with Andy Dalton in a game. They were never, ever doing that with Bryce Young. So Andy gives them an ability to, like I said on Wednesday's podcast, just see what their offense is. Do they even have any good players? Is the system working? Do they have the right fit in terms of players for that system? They signed Deontay Johnson to this contract, and he's caught, I think, 2 or 3 balls this year. Adam Thielen was visibly frustrated on Sunday. They just need a quarterback to get these veterans the ball, or else he's going to lose the locker room, and he'll lose it quickly. Excited for the Red Rifle, Red Rocket, whatever you call him, to be back on the football field on Sunday. He said he didn't know if he'd ever have a chance to start again. So, shout out to him, and hopefully he stays healthy. He is a little bit older, but would like to see this Panthers team just show any signs of life. They have 13 points in 2 weeks, and it's looked absolutely fucking terrible. What else has looked absolutely terrible is the Raiders' rushing offense. They have 98 rush yards this season. Yeah, that's last in the NFL. Panthers have more rush yards than the Raiders. 98 rush yards. They have not gotten to 100 rush yards. It's almost like maybe they should have paid. They could have gone after a guy like Josh Jacobs. I don't know why they didn't. Weird. But yeah, that's why you fucking pay your best players, people. Because they do not have a run game without Josh Jacobs. Big thing to watch milestone-wise, potentially on Sunday. Davante Adams. If he has 50 or more receiving yards on Sunday, he will become the 11th player in NFL history with 11,000 career receiving yards. He is walking into the Hall of Fame as soon as he is done. I'm excited for Davante. I think he looked really good in the second half last week and obviously made a bunch of huge plays for them to win that game. I've been saying it since the season preview every week. Just get 17 the motherfucking rock. and let him go. Just get in the ball. But that's beside the point. There's always that old saying, when the coach gets fired, you always bet on the interim coach, and it usually works out in your favor. If there's ever been a case that that's true, it is Jeff Saturday winning a game, and then literally not doing anything after that. But I don't know what's the line on the quarterback replacement, but I think the Panthers lose this game by 4 points and they cover. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say Andy Dalton covers this spread. That's all I'm going to say. I'm also not a Raiders fan, so I wouldn't be too upset if Carolina just went and won this game. But I think the Raiders win and take care of business. AP's got too good of a culture there. Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, Bobby Spillane on the defense, Minshew, Tay. I think the Raiders win this game, but they might keep it close. We'll see what happens. Both their games have been fairly close this year. So my pick is going to be my pick in this game is actually going to be under 39.5. I'm not even going to pick the spread. Under 39.5. 20-10 game, 23-10 maybe is kind of what I'm thinking could happen in this one. Okay, so that's your afternoon slate. That wraps it up. And now let's talk Sunday night football between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Atlanta Falcons. Chiefs are favored by 3.5. The over-under is 46.5. What do the Chiefs do without Pacheco? They've pretty much changed their entire offense to a whole different style since they've got Pacheco, because he's just been so productive for them. Now, they do have a pretty deep set of receivers that Mahomes is comfortable with all of them. You got Rashee Rice. You still have Justin Watson there. Xavier Worthy's there. McCole Hardman's still there. They did lose Hollywood Brown. They still have Travis Kelce and Noah Gray. My question is, do they go back to airing it out? Do they go back to playing more of like a... It almost feels like they could potentially play a little bit of a Andy Reid Eagle-style offense when they had Shady McCoy. Now, I'm not calling Samaje Perine Shady McCoy, but he is a great receiving running back like Shady was. And they use that quick screen game a lot with Shady to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands and to get him going and use it as the extension of their run game. I'm curious to see what they do because Perine is so good out of the backfield. Now, they did sign Kareem Hunt, former Chief, to their practice squad this week. I don't think he'll dress on Sunday. He will be, I think he'll be in that rotation come next week or the week after. Kareem Hunt's a very good running back. I'm not saying he's the superstar he used to be, but Kareem Hunt's a damn good running back. And then they still obviously have Carson Steele, the rookie from UCLA, who they really like. But he's less of like a 3-down back and more of a short yardage kind of back. So interested to see how they use Perine and what the run game looks like going forward now with Pacheco out, because they have a great O-line, and if they can protect Mahomes, he can throw that rock anywhere. I just wonder, do they go back to airing it out a little bit more, calling a little more pass plays than they have for the last 2 years because of no Isaiah Pacheco? My eyes are going to be, or what I'm most intrigued about in this game, Steve Spagnuolo versus Kirk Cousins. And I guess you can throw Zach Robinson into that, who is the offensive coordinator for the Falcons. But Spags is a master at creating pressure and creating looks that you've never seen before. And he's going to want to speed up Kirk and try to get him to have to use his legs a little bit and move around on that repaired Achilles. Is Kirk going to be able to make checks at the line? Does Kirk want to make checks at the line? What is the game plan? Are they going to try to be a run heavy? What's the case? Now, the Chiefs defense has been ranks really bad so far this season. They're 29th overall, but they've also faced Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. So I don't know if that's because of the offenses they've faced or if their defense is just not as good this year. I think their defense is fine. They've just played two good teams, and numbers in week 2 can be kind of skewed in one directions. But Spags versus Cousins is a very interesting thing to keep your eye on. Spagnuolo has always struggled a little bit against Burrow, but came up big time against Burrow last week when they needed him. And I want to know, what is his plan going to be against Kirk Cousins, and how does he get him to make mistakes that Kirk made in week 1 that he did not make in week 2 against the Eagles. Now, can the Chiefs get Kelsey going? He has 4 catches for 39 yards and 7 targets this year. That's kind of hard to comprehend. I said in the season preview that this would not be the year that Travis Kelsey falls off. And now, while I still believe that is true, I did say I hope that they used him less, and they have used him less. So all good things for Travis. I'm not too worried about Travis Kelsey at the moment, but would like to see him get more involved in the offense. But maybe that main role has now just become Rashee Rice's, and Kelsey's going to be used more in a different way. I think Bijan Robinson's going to have a big game. He has 233 total yards on 42 touches this season, but he hasn't scored a touchdown yet. I think he gets in the end zone on Sunday night. You know, the Sunday night football games, you always expect the stars to show up and big players to make big plays. I think Bijan makes one of those big plays on Sunday, gets in the end zone for his first touchdown of the season. But I like watching Bijan, and I hope he continues to get more comfortable in the offense and continues to thrive and become more explosive, and they get the ball in his hands even more than they have. My pick in this game, I'm going to take the Falcons plus 3.5. I just don't think I think the Chiefs will win by 3. How about that? I think the Chiefs will win by 3. 46.5. Yeah, I'm gonna take I think Chiefs win 23-20 is what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna take the Falcons plus 3.5. And that wraps up your preview for all the games on Sunday. Light morning window, nice afternoon window, and then we get the Sunday night game between the Chiefs and the Falcons. Yes, beware. Chris Collinsworth is calling the game on Sunday. And Patrick Mahomes' name might be down his throat the entire time. So just beware of that. Love you, Chris, but fucking hell. We get it, Mahomes. We understand. Here's a guy. Chiefs win Sunday Night Football, but Falcons cover that thing. All right, let's get to PWay's Parlay now. All right, something new for you guys this week. 0-2. We've gone 1-2 on both the picks, both the cards. So, we get one right, we get 2 wrong. You need all 3 to make a parlay work. I got 2 parlays for you this week. One of them is a more traditional one, like I had the first last NFL week, excuse me. Or the first NFL week, I didn't do one last week, which is like just over-unders and then spreads. And then the other one is a touchdown scorers parlay. So the goal here now with PWay's Parlay is for these Friday ones, I'm going to give you one that's just of the team's money line, over, under, or spread, and then one of a touchdown scorers parlay. The team ones will be more reasonable odds. The touchdown scorer ones, let's go chase some bread. Let's go chase some fucking money, and let's go do this thing. All right, we're going to start with the team ones. The one that's not as intense. First bet, I like Texans -2 at Minnesota. That is the first bet on the card. I broke it down. I think that's the best game of the morning slate. I'm very excited to see that game. I just think the Texans win by a field goal, and it's a great game. But I'm gonna take the Texans by a field goal in that one. Next up on that slip is gonna be Lions at Cardinals over 51.5. I think there's points. What did I say? I said 34-28 or something like that in the breakdown. 34-31 maybe even. There's going to be points in this game. I think 51 is hit. No problem. Games being played indoors. No weather to be worried about. 2 offenses that have been humming. Give me that over 51.5 Cardinals and Lions. And then last but not least on this card, I just realized I gave you all 3 games from the I gave you 2 from the morning, 1 from the afternoon. The second one from the morning is Chargers at Steelers under 36. Under 36. Chargers Steelers. I just think that's a 17-10 game, maybe a 24 or maybe a 21-14 even. gets us there. I think this thing goes under 36, and your total odds there are plus 584. I feel great about that one. I never like betting unders because these are NFL players, and we could see 80-yard touchdowns or an 80-yard touchdown on a flip of a dime. I also worry about needing 52 points in the Cardinals and Lions games, but who wants to bet the under in that game? Fuck that. Like, let's see points. And honestly, do you expect anything less than an under in Chargers Steelers? No. If you're going to watch that game, you know what it's going to be. Just bet the under and try to win some money. But there you have it. Texans -2 at Minnesota. Lions at Cardinals over 51.5. Chargers at Steelers under 36 plus 584. Lock that thing in there. All right. Touchdown scores now. Touchdown scores. So I'm going to keep. They're always going to be 3 now. That's what I'm going to do now until we win more. 3. Just try to get 3 of them because we're 0 for 2 on the 3s. We're not going to go up. We're not going to go less. We're going to stay at 3. Touchdown scores. Number 1, Alvin Kamara, -210 touchdown scorer. Do we need an explanation? The dude had 4 touchdowns last week. Their offense can't stop scoring touchdowns. I think they just scored another one already in week 3. You get my point. Alvin Kamara -210 to score a touchdown. Next up, I like Brock Bowers, +210 to score a touchdown. Leading the NFL in yards for tight ends. Had a monster game last week. Going into week 3, they're playing the Panthers, who do not have a great defense. I like Brock Bowers to score his first career touchdown on Sunday. And last but not least, give me Stephon Diggs' revenge touchdown against Minnesota. Yep, you heard it. Plus 160. Steph Diggs to score a touchdown against Minnesota in his old stadium. I just have a feeling they might just give it to him in the red zone, or they have a specific play called up for him. I think Stephon Diggs gets in the end zone against his former team, the Minnesota Vikings, and that bet is plus 1,089. Plus 1,089 on that one. Like I said, reasonable, long shot. Now, you might say plus 584 is not reasonable. More reasonable than last week. But those are our plays. Alvin Kamara, Stephon Diggs, Brock Bowers to score a touchdown at plus 1,089. Texans -2. Lions at Cardinals over. Chargers at Steelers under. And that will wrap up the portion of the podcast for today. Episode 8 is in the books. Thank you guys once again for listening. Thank you guys for supporting. Thank you guys, for telling your friends and whatever you can do is greatly appreciated. If you could like, comment, subscribe, would be greatly appreciated. Share it with your friends. I usually post an Instagram reel and post on Twitter every time I do a new episode. So if you could share that, if you don't mind, and tell your friends, would be greatly appreciated. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Nice weekend of football coming up here. College football tomorrow. There's actually a good college football game tonight as well. And then more college football on Saturday. And then, of course, NFL on Sunday. I will be back again on Monday with a full reaction to week 3 of NFL games. Get excited, ladies and gentlemen. We're already in week 3. And it's coming by and going quick. But enjoy this weekend. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Thank you once again for listening. Much love from PWay. Peace.